Hi, everyone. I am back again. Apologies for the wait, just the joys of technology, but it is such a pleasure. Again, my name is Babalu Flores, and giving great homage and honor and thanks to Original Botanica for everything that they do and for this platform. I am going to be doing a little bit of some questions and answers. So, for people who are rejoining us, please let me know in the comments. Oh, I see the chat. So if there are folk who are coming back in, thank you for your patience and also for the learning curve because this is brand new to me. Okay, so I have some pre-made questions, some things that I had received over the last week, and was just going into some of the dynamics or some of the things that y'all are interested in as the audience. So I was talking about love work and the fact that, it's really important to be very intentional with the type of work that we are doing, specifically of being careful with doing coercive or dominating work on folk. Because I have seen that turn bad real fast, especially whenever it comes to sometimes getting people obsessed with us to the point where it can lead to problems. So, just as a cautionary, I want to put that out there. For folk who are wanting to do new love work, things like chuparosa oil, things like Look Me Over, they're great products that you can absolutely get at Original Botanica. As well as there are a lot of ingredients that speak to those types of love workings. I see a question right now. Hi, folk. I see some of my community on. Hi, everybody. And there's a great question about how to build a stronger connection with La Madama. So for folk who don't know who La Madama is, in more of the Spiritismo as well as Lukumi faiths, La Madama is seen as the head or the madron or the queen of a certain nation of ancestral spirits, as well as how would I put this? She's the one of the guardians of types of psychic spirits that can work with us for clients, as well as in our love life in different ways. She is seen and imagined as this being who, during the enslavement era, was working, quote unquote, in the living quarters as a servant or as a maid, right, to these plantation owners. And that, she was extremely smart and brilliant and was um, able to get how would I put this? I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of a way of saying it that's uplifting. Basically, that she was able to coerce, these plantation owners, these masters, to do her will. And so she's seen as that entity that is able, through influence, through energetics, to be able to bring things in and manage the home and manage the psychic space, sweep negative energies, negative clients out. She's a real forceful spirit, but also kind and compassionate and loving and generous. Um, there is a ceremony in Espiritismo, in spiritualism, as well as in Lukumi, called La Madama ceremony. And that is to identify your core guardians, your core psychic court, basically, and to be able to set them up in a way where folk have to come to them before they enter conversation to you. So whether that's other spirits, whether that's other people, that they basically become the guardians of your psychic center. Now, there's ways of working with her that you don't have to go through that necessary like ceremony, but I really recommend it for those who are really trying to bring her forward. La Madama loves cigars. She loves honey. She loves white rum. She loves perfumes. So things like Florida water, Kananga water, Colonia 1800, any of the colognes and perfumes that you use on yourself. She's a big fan of ancestral foods. And so that can look like any types of ancestral foods. For me, I learned, kind of like hush puppies or akara, which are black eyed pea fritters. She likes fish. She likes sweets, pasteles, things like that. You can work with an image of her as well as a statue and wash it with herbs like um, basil and mint. And there's an herb called abamoda. And different lineages have different herbs to wash her with, as well as 5 to 7 of your spiritual colognes. uh, take your cigar and smoke her out, and start to do consistent weekly prayer work with her, to identify who your psychic guardians are, your spiritual court, so she can act as that queen of the spiritual court, as well as put petitions underneath that image or that statue, specifically about the things that you're trying to, manifest for you. In terms of a specific cigar, no. I mean, I love some Black and Milds. Like, let me just be real honest. So, and that's kind of what I learned with. But you can get as fancy as you want. But I always say it's the prayer around it versus how much you're paying for it. Does that make sense? Um, she also is an entity that especially on Sundays, whenever you're working with your ancestors, that you can really work with her. What I was taught was Fridays and Sundays are great ways of working with her. Fridays, because that's usually whenever we get paid, and so she brings paying clients to you on Sundays as the queen of the ancestors, kind of vibe. Again, this is just a very fast rundown of who she is, and you can read more on her. There's a lot of different books that you can find online, as well as talking with elders, because reading books does not replace sitting with eldership. And definitely, you can find a lot on her. So I hope that was useful. But she's an amazing spirit. There's a lot of different different psychic spirits like her. There's Congo. There's an Indian, Native American, First Nation spirit for those who work a lot in the forest and in Yedberia. So yeah, but yeah, there's a whole. They're called conclaves of spirit. So if you think of like Lama Dama as the queen of that specific nation of spirit guides, there's many of those. So I hope that was useful. Okay, so somebody else asked, I want a stronger connection with the Orishas. So I'm gonna not go off, but go into my own view about how to do that. Of course, if you have teachers yourself, go with them. My very first teacher in Orisha, gave me a piece of advice that I still use today, and I tell all my students, don't be foolish. So why would you take the advice of somebody that you just know versus your own madrina, padrino, your own community? If something that I say is in any way going against those teachings, go with them. Again, I come from a little bit more of an Isheshe or Nigerian connection. So it might be a little bit different from what you see in the African diaspora. But the first thing that I learned how to do, and that's a cornerstone of Orisha practice, is getting in touch with your Ori. And your Ori is your inner indwelling spirit, your soul, your consciousness, your being. And that if your Ori doesn't say yes to whatever it is that you're trying to do in life, no other Orisha, no other Egun, no other ancestor can help you out. And that the goal of Orisha practice and spirituality is to move you closer to Ori, and that they're supportive of that versus that they're going to be the be all end all. And so, working with different Orisha is about bringing that support in to support your highest being, your highest soul, the highest consciousness of who you are. Um, there are a lot of different books that I love talking about. In my own lineage, I come from my grandfather in tradition is Baba Ifa Karade, so I love the Handbook of Yoruba religious concepts. That's a great introductory book. I speak it about it myself in my it's called the I'm so sorry, the modern art of brujeria, that you can find at original Botanica as well. But yeah, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about Orisha, is really they're supportive of our highest divinity, which is our Ori. Then going out in nature. So, spending time at the river, spending time in the park, spending time in places where these divinities exist, because it's one thing to try and work with them on the altar. It's a whole other thing to engage them in the physical landscape. And so, Shango lives where they talk about like the palm tree, or, whenever we're like in New York, like big, large trees, right? So going and spending time with the trees. When we were talking about Yimoja, the ocean, Oshun, the river, Obatala, high places. Even, going up on a skyscraper and being able to look at the immensity of the world from there and getting that perspective. I will be doing some Orisha 101, kind of conversations and up and coming videos. But yeah, there's a lot to say there. But really praying from the heart, as long as you have good intention, you're not trying to manipulate anybody, you're really doing it for the betterment of you and your family. They are absolutely there. They listen to you. They're already part of your life. Sometimes we don't even realize that they're there because they have been there since the beginning, almost like gravity. And so we might have a name to them now, but they have been with you since the beginning. So being in that prayerful way um, is, the way of starting to engage it. And of course, you can learn the liturgies and the prayers and the offerings and todo y todo, all of the. But it first comes to the heart, it comes to your intention, it comes to your sincerity and your authenticity. And they're just as available, if not more so in nature, outside of just the altar, right? So I hope that was a useful conversation. Um, definitely there are a lot of books to start, learning from. There are a lot of teachers, especially in New York and the outlying areas, who are brilliant elders. And, start to take classes, start to speak with people, start to develop relationships. And that's part of this journey. Okay, some other questions. Ooh, what's the best way to cleanse myself and my home from negative energies? I love this question. And yes, I'm going to be talking about a little uncrossing bath later. But the first thing that you want to do is clean the house inside and out. A lot of people just want to go to the spiritual, let me do a bath, let me do all that without actually cleaning their house. And it doesn't work that way, especially whenever, if we're pack rats and we have things all over the place. If there isn't a space where spirit can come in, it just isn't going to work. So I tell people, start there. Then you're going to work your house from the back to the front, from the top to the bottom if you live on a multi-level, in a multi-level apartment. So what I mean by the back to the front is going from the very back room and then going and sweeping things, doing your cleansing work from there, and sweeping that energy out the front door, versus starting at the front door and then going back. Because what we're doing is we're moving things from right the back to the front to move it out the house. So you can absolutely get pre-made baths, pre-made candles, incenses, amazing products. If you want to do things yourself, you can do a little room spray, that you take an uncrossing bath or a cleansing bath, boil that up, strain that of the herbs, then put it in a little spray bottle and spray from the back to the front. Ingredients like lemon peel, ingredients like eucalyptus, rue, rosemary, abricamino, lemongrass. There's a yerba called devil's shoestring, which is cramp bark. Basil, boneset. Boneset is the English equivalent of abracamino. White clover, pine, mugwort, chamomile, eucalyptus, hyssop, yarrow. Those are all phenomenal uncrossing and cleansing herbs. Those are more in the Southern rootwork tradition. If you wanted things in more of the Orisha, Afro-Caribbean, things like rompezaragüe, rompecamisa, what else? Honestly, basil and mint are phenomenal. Basil's a huge anti-witchcraft, anti-curse, anti-malediction. It stops, literal witchcraft from entering the house and removes it. Rue. There's a whole bunch of herbs that you can engage, but you can choose anywhere between 3 to 5 to 7 of those. I was always taught odd numbers. The way that I like to do it, unless it's a specific prescription, would be taking some salt. I like to use rock salt, Epsom salts, and sea salt. Boiling the herbs, and of course, whenever I say boiling them, you want to pray to each one, bring out the spiritual essence of each of the ingredients that you're using. Putting that in in a large pot of water, boiling that, saying your prayers. I like to add a splash of olive oil because olive oil was, across cultures has been used as a holy oil. Like I was talking about, taking off the heat, letting it cool down, filtering out the herbs, putting it in a little spray bottle. Especially if you have carpet, of course you can put that in like mop water if you are able to mop the floors. If you have carpet, put it in a little spray bottle, working each of the corners, the walls, the floor, the ceiling, each drawer, every place that's in your house, every cabinet, and going back to front. Then from there, I use a camphor. And watch out, because camphor can be a little harsh on the lungs. So opening up your windows, smoking it out, fumigating your house out, then taking a red candle or a white candle. You can load it with some of the same herbs and oils, and then walking out throughout the house, asking that spirit help cleanse and bring elevation and protect every room, every corner, the closet, todo y todo. And then, right, I move all that out the front door. And then if I'm like mopping, I take my used mop water and I throw it in the street to have that disperse, if that makes sense. I see some. There's a question about if you live in an apartment. If you pick it up in the front and take it outside. So you can absolutely, take it to the front door, cleanse the front door, and then I don't cleanse the hall or any of the common areas. I just cleanse the front and the back, the front of the front door, the back of the front door. And then, I go outside and throw that mop water. Does that make sense? Yay. Okay. So I see a couple of other questions. Oh, yes, there's a good comment. No evil abides where basil has been. Absolutely. And especially in Afro-Caribbean traditions, basil is a very, very, very powerful herb. Like I was saying, it cuts witchcraft. It literally stops the tongue from speaking evil against you. And we use it culinary wise, right? Like it's so, so powerful. Um, Yay. What are some other questions that y'all have? I'm gonna do another like 5-10 minutes, and then I'll go into a simple uncrossing bath ritual for y'all before I end up saying goodbye for the night. Anything else that's on your mind? Oh, money work. So for money work, and this is just just my 2 cents, and this is an overall money working. By the way, my cat says hi. He's right here on my lap. But money work, right? Um, I love working with sassafras. Sassafras is a great herb to not just bring in great luck with money, but also protect it from envy and jealousy. Alfalfa, so that way you always have abundance and prosperity. Alkanet for value and self-esteem. Cinnamon, any of the spices to bring that heat. Yeah, so those are some really easy money ingredients. You do that on a green candle. You can either inscribe your name on it, write your name on it, write your petition on it. Load all those ingredients up. I use any of your money oils to further kind of do the trick. Write a little petition of what you want the candle to do for you. Put that underneath the candle, and then you're ready. um, okay, so there's a couple of last questions. Let's see. Okay, so one, what can I do to get rid of a neighbor that is annoying me? And how I said, like, I'm not a big coercive dude, but I do say whenever it's needed, there's a reason, why we have these workings. Things like hot foot, hot foot oil, any of the hot foot herbs. You dress their doorway, you dress their mailbox, the entranceway carpet, any place where they can touch. And you say your petition, you pray for what you need to pray for. But I do hot foot type work if that was a thing that was necessary, and I've tried everything else before I go to that. One thing that I was taught is we never take out our sword unless we're planning to behead the person, right? So I'm not somebody that does a lot of negative work, or even have done it, once or twice because it was needed, versus that's my go-to immediately. But just making sure that's a thing that you're ready to put your hands in before you do it. Um, So there's a couple of more. One about developing gifts. So, the biggest thing whenever it comes to divination, any form of developing gifts, is really start to go slow. One of the biggest things that I was taught was to know how to uncross, release, cleanse before we start to try and attract or bring in a specific spirit or do a whole bunch of spiritual work. Because if we bring something in and it's not for our betterment, we need to definitely know how to get rid of it, right? And so starting there with that type of, how do I cleanse, how do I remove, how do I unblock, uncross, learning how to do that first in space, do that on you. Also check in terms of what's your natural body like, because then you can tell whether a spirit's on you. So if you're naturally somebody that goes cold, that's probably not going to be a spirit that's speaking to you. It's just your natural temperature. So knowing yourself outside of any spiritual work or religious work, and then starting to, do any of these invocations, evocations of this and that, right? Okay, I have a couple more. One on my thoughts of return to sender work. So I love it. I'm a big fan of it. I do a lot of reversing. I love ingredients like rue, agrimony. There's a red and black seed called peonia seed that's great for return to sender work. It's also called the Three Marias, or I believe the Latin name is Abrus pecatorius or something to that effect. Great, great, great herbs. And then I put in a lot of the uncrossing herbs like we were talking about before. So that's amazing. There's a question about black salt. Yes, you can absolutely use black salt in any of your uncrossing work. That's highly protective, as well as very much charged to get rid of things. There's a question about positive outcomes for court case work. So love working with High John, Queen Elizabeth root or Orris root, Echinacea, Master of the Woods. Depending on what's going on, if you want to cause confusion to the other side, you would use things like mustard seed, confusion oil, things like that. If you're trying to win, people love to use a cumin, love to use even lemongrass. There's a lot of different court case herbs, but you would use a brown candle if you're working candle work. If you're petitioning, if you want to, like a patron of court case, people either work with like Oshosi, who's the divine Orisha of justice, specifically like the court system, or Ogun, to take care of things, Eshu. There's a question about black salt and eggshells. Yes, that's good if you wanted to do a protective barrier around your place. You can also use a powder called Erosun, which is a red camwood powder. Those are phenomenal. So if you're doing any type of creating boundaries, those are all great herbs to add in. And, of course, white magic, I get the idea, but all magic's all magic. I don't make a distinction between white or black. I think it's about what the issue is, and knowing that, quote unquote, so much of, this kind of black magic and the ways that we think of it, it was birthed because people were really working in extreme conditions where they were getting beaten and lynched and burned at the stake. And so, yeah, if you're coming after me and mine and you're trying to, hurt me, I'm going to go all out, right? But they were birthed, most of what we think of as quote unquote black magic was birthed out of necessity. That's not where people go immediately. It really isn't. And so, being able to see it in that context versus evil. And of course, there are some, nasty workers. There are some people who do a lot of negative work, but where a lot of the source of some of those rituals come from is, how do I protect my community? How do I protect myself? How do I ensure that my life is going to continue and that the people that I love are going to be taken care of, and not just for willy-nilly issues, right? Yes, this video will be saved. Yeah, and yes, quote unquote black magic as the nuclear option, absolutely. And again, I have wording, phrasing, right, is big, and unfortunately, just with the nature of racism, um, that's how we started to label black magic. So I always like to check myself in the terms that I use. Aggressive magic, negative magic, things like that, because what we say and how we categorize things is just as important as the workings themselves. Okay, so in terms of this last 5 minutes, I would love to run through a quick recipe, an uncrossing recipe. So I'm going to give y'all a number of different ingredients. And like I was saying before, you can use anywhere between 3 to 5 to 7 of any of these herbs. Sometimes you'll hear about a 13 ingredient uncrossing. Absolutely, but it's all it's it's more about, again, the prayers and the internal work around the ingredients versus the amount, right? And of course, there are already pre-made baths, pre-made oils, candles that you can use, and so whatever you feel called to, right? If you wanted to make it from scratch, you can use herbs like I was talking about before: eucalyptus, lemon balm, lemon rind, like the rind of the lemon, and grated lemon rind, um, basil, mint, white clover, cramp bark, which is also called devil's shoestring. Um, what else can you use? Um, I love rue. I love agrimony. Add that all in. You're going to take 3 parts rock salt to 2 parts Epsom salts to 1 part sea salt. Oh yes, lemon zest. Sorry. Um, and real quick question. Somebody had a question about, should they do uncrossing before protection? Yes. You always want to cleanse yourself, cleanse your area before you put up your castle wall, so to speak. So you don't want to have any spiritual poo-poo on the inside that just seals it up with you. So you're going to take those ingredients, like I was saying, 3 parts rock salt, 2 parts Epsom salts, 1 part sea salt. You're going to, say your prayers over each one of these ingredients, bringing its spiritual potency out, calling on it as a plant ally and a plant spirit to help you do the work that you're doing. You're going to put that in a big old tub of water or a big old pot of water. Let that come to a rolling boil. And as it's doing that, pray over it, really meditate, say it out loud, because some people just say it internal, and the power of the tongue is powerful. So you want to literally say that and call that into existence. Uh, as it's coming to a rolling boil, take it off the heat. Some people like to actually steam their house too. So taking that pot of water that's been boiling, take the top off and walk it through the house back to front to get the smell going already. Then sit it on the stove, let it come to a complete, room temperature cool, right? So you're not scorching yourself. You're going to, with any uncrossing, releasing, anything that you're getting rid of energetically, you're not going to soak in it. You're going to pour it down the body. And you want to take a shower and cleanse yourself first, and then do your spiritual bath, right? And even whenever it comes to showers, people use uncrossing soaps. So everything from like black soap, I love working with black soap, to there are pre-made medicine soaps that have some of these ingredients in them. So you're going to cleanse yourself physically, then you're going to cleanse yourself spiritually, right? And so say I have a pouring container, and for folk who don't want to mess up their hair, that's fine. You don't have to pour from the top down. You can pour from the neck down, you're going to say whatever the intention is first. Take a scoop of that water, either pour it from the head down or the neck down, and then you're going to wash that down all the way to the bottoms of the feet. And you're going to do that anywhere between 7, 9, 11, or 13 times, depending on what your need is. I love the number 7. It's a spiritual number. It's the number, like it's a soul number. So, working with 7, some people work with 9 in terms of calling on the ancestors, the graveyard, to help remove it. 11 and 13 have a lot to do with opening the roads, opening the paths. So you're going to do that, say your prayer, pour, wash down, any of that number of times, right? If you have any herbs or things that are sticking to you, let them stay on the body. Think of it as, almost like protective armor that's on you. You want the residues on you. You're going to get out of the shower. You're going to air dry if you can. If you need to do this in a rush, pat dry, but you want to leave as much residue on you to let it soak in and absorb on the skin, right? And then you're going to dress in clean clothes. I like to dress in light colored clothes. It doesn't have to be white, but you don't want clothes that are absorbing colors. You want things that are reflective. You're going to light a candle for your consciousness or, indwelling spirit, your Ori. And it can just be a little itty bitty tea light. It doesn't have to be a whole big thing. Put it on on like your refrigerator or head height to elevate yourself. And then for the rest of the night, chill out, watch a comedy, doing things inside the house, but you want to be off social media. You don't want anything that's going to bum you out, get you in a funk, having fights with anybody. Really be in that meditation space, watch things that are happy, that are joyful, that are, uplifting, and then go to bed. And in the morning, you can wash yourself if you feel like you want to get rid of any of the extra residues that are on the body. But that's a very simple uncrossing bath recipe and ritual. There's a lot more elaborate versions of it. And especially if you get it as a prescription, you want to go to whoever the diviner is and do exactly what they tell you to do, because that's what, knowing them, that's what they gave you, right? So yeah. Oh, there's a couple of last questions. Um, Lemon zest. Yes. So I know I said lemon rides. So I was talking about the zest. Zest it. You can also squirt the lemon itself in there, but you want as much of the lemon essence, right? Um, how to uncross your home. If you want to reference some of the earlier parts of this video, I talked about it in terms of working back from front, top to bottom. Yes, in terms of the power of the tongue, that it's especially potent whenever we're using our prayers, using our ashe. Yeah, so this is amazing. I am actually not in New York, but there are phenomenal experts at Original Botanica that can absolutely answer any questions that you have. In fact, like whenever I was growing up, Original Botanica was one of my like dream botanicas, in the middle of Texas, like just learning. It was a very well respected, even in the 80s, 90s. And I've learned so much from them and from their expertise. So please don't hesitate to, go and talk to them, face to face, as well as thank them for all the unseen work that they do. It's really easy for me to come on YouTube and act like I'm the expert of everything. But they're the ones who are day in, day out working on your behalf, getting your orders going. And they, just appreciation and love and thanks goes a huge, huge way. Well, yay. So I'm going to end this stream, and there are going to be a number of different readers, experts, root workers, witches that are going to come on throughout this next month, and I'm going to be back to later on. Please, give everybody some love. We're all phenomenal at what we do. There's a great team of readers. Please don't hesitate to, if you want to book with me, book with me. You can find me on their website at Original Botanica. And also, if you have questions specific to a case that you want to work, ingredients, if you are looking for different rituals, we can always do a session just on that type of information. So know that I'm available, for anything that you want to ask, as well as any of the readers. We're all phenomenal in what we do. And so, yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being online for this first little session. Okay, bye, loves.